Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the True Potential Do More With Your Money podcast. Today is episode 63 on the 9th of April 2021. Good morning to everybody, and delighted to be joined by Mark Henderson, by Diane Patterson, and by Jamie Sexton. Good morning, guys. I hope you're all well. Thank you for joining me today. Today's podcast title is, as the marketing team have described it, the snappy title of How to Give Yourself a Pay Rise. So we've got some different tips about how to make the most of allowances, how to make the most of saving money in different ways, and just generally giving you hopefully some tips and some pointers as we're now at tax year start. But before we get into that side of things, I'll hand across to yourself, please, Mark. And if you could give us the week that's been so far in the markets.
Yeah, sure, Dan. Good morning, everyone. A shorter market update because we're recording this on Friday morning and it's been a bank holiday weekend. So we've got 3 days to look back on and 1 day to look forward to. But when we do look back on the week, we've seen US markets hit record highs. We've got the UK markets at pre-pandemic levels. And you begin to ask, what was all the fuss about this time last year? Well, we know what caused the falls in global markets. And as we look back, we look back not in anger, but with pleasure that we pulled out of that. And we can see strong growth in some asset prices continuing, not just in the first quarter, but also after the Easter break. The US market has dominated, as it quite often does, where we've seen good job creation with 916,000 jobs added in March. The sector started to open up again. We've seen the number of vacancies increase by 268,000, mostly in hospitality and leisure. But also we've seen some infrastructure spending news. We touched on this a little bit last week, but all of this has to be paid for. And I'll come on to that a wee bit later. As European markets caught up on Tuesday, they opened up. The UK was up 1.28%. Europe was also up, but about by half of the UK. We also saw the IMF revise their global growth predictions. Globally, up from 5.5% to 6% for 2021, and a further increase of 4.4% for 2022. And again, this positivity is coming mostly from US growth, which was revised up to 6.4% from 5.1. Not to be outdone, of course, China, 8.4% is the prediction for growth. So that's all good for world markets. A lot of the reason, of course, is the continuation of the vaccination program, but also with continued fiscal support as well. In China, we saw the PMI index, the Purchase Managers Index, up. It's showing 54.3, and anything over 50 is positive for growth. So that was a good Tuesday. Wednesday, we saw Fed minutes released. They had some comment on Treasury yields. They see, prices have been falling recently. But what's supporting it is really new debt issuance, where the US Treasury is putting new Treasury stock out there. They're being bought, and there's been a surplus as well. More money than they've had debt to buy. The Fed also said they'll continue with the asset purchasing program at the current pace, and they don't see any expectation of rate hikes all the way through 2023, which the markets liked, and S&P hit record highs. Joe Biden's also increased the vaccine target. They're looking to make sure that all adults in the US have a vaccine available by the 19th of April, which is good. It continues on the theme that the UK have seen, and hopefully we'll see the sectors opening up. Not so much from next week, but as we get into April and May, further relaxation of lockdown. So what happened yesterday? Well, there's some noises coming out of the Biden administration on taxation, and it was never going to be too long before this happened. What they're suggesting is the world's biggest multinational companies pay levies to national governments based on the sales in each country. This is the start of a movement for global minimum taxation, and it would be applied to the very largest companies, including US tech. Now that's the start. It faces an uphill battle in US Congress. but it is part of a plan to increase US taxes by $2.5 trillion over the next 15 years. And that will be used to pay for infrastructure, clean energy, and a boost to manufacturing. Returning to markets, the VIX index, which measures volatility in the US, that's now down to February 2020 levels. But within the markets, whilst the volatility is not there, we're seeing quite significant sector rotation. Yesterday was a good day for the UK market, up 83 basis points or 0.83 in everyday language. Europe was up 0.53% on improved sentiment and good factory order data coming out of Germany, and the US, which opened later, also ended higher, up 42 basis points or 0.42%, led by tech stocks. Now, for more detail on the markets yesterday, please watch our morning market update, which this morning features George Bell, who's probably recording it now as we're recording this podcast. So looking at the numbers as they feed across, just to the end of March, I think it's worth looking at the portfolio performances. We touch on balanced all the time. In March, we saw an increase in the balanced portfolio of 2.38%, Balance Plus, which has a little bit more risk to it, a little bit more focus in there on different sectors, was up 2.64%. And that gives us a year to the end of March data of 23% increase in that portfolio. As we get into the growth side of it, more equity content, we're touching a 30% return, actually 29.1 for growth plus portfolio. And in the aggressive, which contains most equities, the year performance is 33.85%. And since launch, that portfolio is up 67%. I'm looking forward to seeing yesterday's market movements reflected in the fund prices when they're published just after lunchtime. We'll see more positive movement in there. And this is all on the back of the best ever month that we've had at True Potential, Dan, for additions to the platform, where we got 658 million new assets added by clients throughout the month. So ending the first quarter on a very positive figure, and the market and the increase in growth across our funds has continued into April.
Absolutely, Mark. I think lots of reasons for optimism there. You know, everything feels like it's opening back up, doesn't it? I think even when you look at the FTSE, I think it could be I know you'll not say this online because it'd be classed as putting a bet on, but you may even see the FTSE sticking back above 7,000 for the first time in a long while. Well, the FTSE 100, I should say. You know, it's sat right now, if I just look, it's sat on 6,929 as well. So it's always, I remember, you know, middle of last year, just trying to get it back above 6,000, and it was just, it's almost kind of, there shouldn't be any kind of like heartfelt reason for that, but I think it kind of sets that kind of sentiment, doesn't it? You hit the 6,000, it sits on 6,000 for a while, and then if we can just get it back above 7,000 and get it sat there for a while, it's just good news.
Yeah, I think so, Dan. And as we speak, probably when this final version comes out, you know, the compliance people will have big signs going above my head saying capital risk, past performance is not a guarantee, it's the future, and all of that sort of thing. But you're absolutely right. You know, we watch for 7,000. I know you and I do it personally. We exchange emails and text on that subject. And I think it's also worth looking at below the FTSE 100 as well, at the smaller company side of it, which we look at frequently and we invest in, so that you get a wider UK exposure than just the largest 100 companies in there. And it's the beauty of the multi-asset nature of the funds that we manage, and the portfolios that we can look in more diverse areas than the strictly headlines would point us towards.
Absolutely. And I think you were talking about opening of lockdown and things like that. I think we'll talk about that in a wee while, just as we've been talking. Some of the news has been coming in about travel and things like that. And obviously we get the next stage of lockdown opening up on Monday as well. So before everyone spends all the money in beer gardens on Monday, we better earn these pay rises first, I guess, which we've mentioned there, and get get us some more disposable income. So, Diane, do you fancy a pay rise?
Well, Dan, you've just spoilt my first line. If you were going to say to me, Diane, what would you do? I'd say, get your boss on a podcast and say, morning, Dan. How do you feel about a pay rise?
You know that I've got that one rule, which is if people ask for a pay rise, I don't give them it.
I know, that's the thing. But I did think if you were there in the public spotlight, that you might be a little bit like, what shall I say? Shall I say yes?
The public don't scare me.
All right, okay then.
And also, Di, what will happen, we'll give half the pay rise that you're expecting the Graham to edit your little section out there.
Of
so
course.
We'll never see the light of day.
Oh, not to worry then. I'll take all that back so you can leave it in. I didn't say it at all. I think for me, when you're talking about pay rises, it has to be a mindset. And I know that sounds, to people that might not have a lot of money, we will have a lot of people watching these podcasts. Some are going to be much better off than others. But personally, it's absolutely a mindset. So because we've been in lockdown now for forever, it just absolutely feels like so long. Even takeaways for me now aren't as appealing anymore, because they're the only thing that you can have. And I think if you look at things like where you spend your money, if you can categorize what you're spending your money on, it's easier for you to understand where you might be able to make some cuts, essentially. And if you can look at your own finances like that and cut back, she says with a smile on her face, having tried to do it, then I think you can look at how you can kind of essentially give yourself a pay rise by cutting back in certain areas and allowing yourself some spending in other areas, things that do actually matter to you.
Dan, I received a message yesterday on which was, I don't know if Santander are in links with Weight Watchers, or they think I maybe like too many takeaways.
Oh dear.
But the message I got up on my app when I opened it yesterday was your takeaway, or well, it was basically takeaway, that was what it said, has increased by 27% over the last month. It was basically, I don't know whether we're insulting us or telling me and give us a bit more information. So that I was waiting for the joke to say that from Dan for takeaways for myself, which is obvious that I haven't went off them yet. But
I wouldn't be so,
I think,
Jamie.
No, I think you're right. I think for my perspective, I totally agree with you. It's sometimes when you look at your sort of spends at the end of the month, and you look at what you do spend your money on, you earn a living to do things. You do earn a living to go out for food and buy things and things like this. But my view on is trying to, from a savings perspective, and trying to say, well, actually, how can I earn how can I earn myself a pay rise in the future? And I'll go to my usual topic, which I always talk about, which is goals and objectives. And I speak to the majority of my time speaking to clients about sort of retirement savings. And if you start getting in the habits of thinking, well, actually, if I can put that extra couple £100 away, or £100 away, or even £50 away on a regular basis, and it looks like a bill, and it looks like a bill that would potentially be your gas or your water or anything like this, they soon mount up significantly over a longer period of time. We have a joke about on my ISA, it was the Australia fund, but now is the Jack School Fee fund. But that's just something where I started that in, God, probably way back when the platform started, man. It started at £20 a month.
Yeah.
And gradually as my money's went up, I've increased it.
Yeah, so probably way back in 2011, Jamie. The platform's obviously 10 years old now, It's an interesting one if we just stay on the subject of pay rises a little bit. One of the things I study and read about at times is kind of behavioral science and why people do certain things or why they feel certain ways about things. And a study that's always resonated with me has been what people do when they actually get a pay rise as well. So there's quite a lot of studies out there, and one of the ones which is often repeated is the fact that there's about a third of people more than a third within 3 months of getting a pay rise have already spent that money, and they've put their spending habits up So it just follows the pay rise, so to speak. So they actually don't feel the benefit of the pay rise at all. And actually then if you fast forward that a year on, only 1 in 6 people feel the benefit of a pay rise, because what happens is as your earnings increase, your spending just naturally begins to increase as well. So I think when we're looking at this idea of kind of pay rise, I know it's the title on there, but it's more about what you can do in terms of, as you're talking about there, Jamie, in terms of goals, or Diane, as you were starting to get at, in terms of budgeting, or Mark, when we're looking at the different investments out there, where you invest the money. I think that's the best way to feel like you're doing more with your money. That's obviously our marketing catchphrase. But if you do more with your money, if you have yourself set up accordingly, you'll actually feel the more benefit of that money. And the final point from me on this kind of pay rise side of things is a tactic I always used to do whenever I used to get a pay rise. Let's say I got an extra £200 a month. I'd put £100 of that straight into my savings straight away. I'd set that up as a direct debit. I'd then have the extra £100 to spend on the type of nonsense we all spend on, be it takeaways or whatever. So, Jamie, if we were setting a direct debit up, would you recommend putting it into an ISA and obviously getting the advantages of that, or would you recommend putting it into, say, a pension and getting more kind of bang for your buck with the pension relief?
I think it really depends on, it really depends on the client's objective of what they want to do with the money. I think when you're saving, it's always when you go for a journey, you've got a destination, it's what you need. So thinking about, well, actually, what do I need this money for, and when will I need it? So, if I look at my example for myself, I've got two separate. I've got my contributions that come through from work. I've got a contribution that goes to my pension, and I've got a contribution that goes to my ISA. So my ISA objective is more of it's a 10-year objective, where I know I'm going to need that money in 10 years' time. So I might look a bit younger than this, but I'll be about 44 in 10 years' time. So I won't be old enough to access my pension. And that's to pay for things such as school fees or maybe other university fees I haven't really sort of thought of from that basis. But if it's looking at, well, actually, this is for my retirement, and you're never too young to start saving for retirement. Actually, you should start as soon as you start working, in my opinion. But by doing that, pensions are a really fantastic product. You're getting tax relief from the government. So for every 80 pence you're putting in, if you're standard rate taxpayer, you're getting 20 pence added from the government. That's an advantage. It's effectively sort of free money from the government on that basis. So it really is worth looking at your objective and what you want to achieve from that pot, and then decide which product on that basis.
Jamie, if I can just jump in at this point, then what you've said there about tax relief on pension contributions is so important and at times overlooked. I was looking at just what would have happened to somebody who was able to put the maximum contribution into a pension this time last year. So we know the allowance is £40,000. That's gross. So the contribution that an individual could make is £32,000. Government give £8,000 on top of that, which is the tax relief on it that we collect as in the pension provider. And if you put it in the growth portfolio, which, as I mentioned before, has done 29% over the year, that £32,000 would be worth 51,200. So just taking that, and again, we're going to get the warning signs, past performance, etc., etc. This time last year, you put £32,000 in, you've got 51,200. That's a 60% return over a 12-month period. And it's partly due to the contribution. It's been partly due to the way markets have gone over the last 12 months. But that's a fantastic return on your money. But as you say, the choice is dependent upon the long-term goal. That pension money can't be touched at the moment until the client would be 55. It's going up to 57 in a couple of years' time. But use it. Use that and get the government contribution into it. We're talking about pay rises. That is the free money side of it. And just, Dan and myself talk about this quite often, that you don't have to be working to contribute to a pension. There's an annual allowance of £3,600 there. It gives you the chance to put £2,880 into a pension. If you're not working, the government will give you £720 free. So it tops it up to £3,600. And that one is often overlooked. Let's say your partner isn't out at work and you've got enough surplus income to be able to put that money away. Doing a pension for your partner like that works, and you get good tax relief.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Mark, for me, because what I was getting at as well earlier on is it's a mindset, as in it has to be a choice of yours. You can't, if you are just going to buy, like I flippantly said, takeaways, if I'm just going to buy takeaways constantly for weeks and weeks and weeks, you get into that habit. And sometimes you feel you don't know whether you want one, but you have one on a Friday night, so you get one because that forms part of kind of the start of your weekend. If you can form a similar sort of habit with your savings accounts, you then kind of begrudge spending that money on something that you no longer need. And even if it is something as little as £1 or £5 or £10, you'll gradually see that money increase. And when you're using the client websites, if you're using things like Impulse Save and you've got your goals on there as well, Jamie, you can see what those pennies and pounds and £5 and £10 actually will add up to. Then you'll see that your pension relief coming in from the government as well, and your employer contributions if you're an auto-enrolled client. You can actually see how much free money that you are getting towards your goal. So you do have to commit to saving as much as you can, but also as much as you actually want to.
I think the ISA as well, to make sure on the ISA it's tax-free growth. So all the growth that you're getting over that period of time is tax-free. So it's that advantage as well from that point of view.
Absolutely. I think the tax-free side of things, as Mark was saying, it's like free money, as you hear at times, but it's free relief, which is coming from the government. So it's a great way to get more for your pound from there. And then Diane, moving across to you when you were talking about, say, the takeaway or not the takeaway, and you were talking about the goal side of things. I think what's useful as well for people to get in their minds is if you've got that kind of goal, what you can see is on your app or on your website is the difference between, say, the performance of your plan and the goal, whether you're ahead of it or behind. It gives you it in pounds and pence as well. So let's say you're £10 behind on your goal as of this morning, which you can check every single day. That £10, put that into context, that could be a curry tonight, as Diane says, when you get into the default idea of Friday night, takeaway night. So then it becomes a nice kind of trade-off, doesn't it? Which is, well, do I really want to spend £10 on the curry, or do I actually want to get my pension or my ISA back on track? Which one's more important to me? And I'd probably guess it should really be the pension or the ISA. It should be about your retirement side of things. So I think that's, again, looking at the value of your pound, that's interesting to do that. Diane, I think or Jamie as well, you've been in the office for me the last couple of weeks, and the amount of kind of Deliveroos and Just Eats and Uber Eats which are coming in from the guys in the office is quite staggering, isn't it, at times? What would you recommend to our naughty girls and boys who work for us who eat all those takeaways?
Well, they can't go anywhere, so why aren't they making their own lunches? It's not like they can spend every evening in a restaurant or a pub or doing something else. They've got more free time right now than they've ever possibly had. But I think if they can, what they should do, for me personally, what helps is if I look at what I've spent and where I've spent it, it's not, you don't realise because it's not tangible anymore. You've essentially got a card, it's money that's leaving your bank account. You don't realise you've spent it because it's automatically gone. If you want to sit and look at what you'd spent over the days or the weeks, or say the last month in March, your stomach would sink when you realise you're getting into the 50, 60, 70 pounds and what if you've got absolutely nothing to show for it. But if you put those 50, 60 or 70 pounds into your savings, not only are you no worse off, you're actually so much better off because you can actually see that money that you've still got it, and it's going towards what, as you've said, whatever your goal is, maybe it's school fees, maybe it's your Australia trip, when things do open up, you will have more money available to you just by making a smarter choice. So I would be tempted to look to see how much I've physically spent within a defined period in those categories, and probably have to go for a bit of a lie down.
Well, it's a really funny one, you know, just if you, and again, this isn't advice before that the compliance can't get me, but if you put £50 away, £50 away a month for 25 years, you get £30,000 at a 5% rate of return. You know, that's so, and what's £50? £50 a month for most people, that's a night out, if anyone remembers what those things were. It's probably 2 or 3 takeaways, if that, as well. But £30,000 is a huge amount of money over 25 years, which is just kind of frittered away like that. And another way, I suppose, of getting more for your existing pound is something which we've got on the True Potential Investor app, and something I know I use, but Jamie, I know you use it as well, because you were emailing me about it the other day, which is the rewards side of things, and we're bringing that out for all clients very soon as well. We've just been trialing it with our direct and auto enrolled clients. So, Jamie, could you talk about maybe how you get extra value for that pound, every pound you spend now?
Yeah, it's actually you know, something it'd be exciting to get it across all clients currently with TP Investor. But we've got a lot of major brands on the app now. If you look at the TP Investor, you can see the rewards. And actually, you know, when I first seen it, I was shocked at actually the majority of the very good brands that we've got coming through. So, you know, in the past we've had like Apple, Nike, and the one I was talking to Dan about the other day was Brewdog. So ordered my beer through. Maybe should cut that back and put in my savings. But ordered some beer through Brewdog. Got I think it was a 4% cashback. And I actually forgot about it. It was actually Christmas beers, and it normally takes a couple of months to come through. But actually, the contribution came into my pension. Sorry, it came into my ISA in March. It's worth doing. If you're ever buying any products, have a quick look on the site, and just see whether you've got. And you'll be shocked. Probably the chances are the company will be on there. There's a lot of really good companies. With obviously Just Eat is one of the biggest sort of cashback areas that we've got, but it's amazing. And it starts to mount up as well, just these sort of little, even you get 4 or 5%, and some of them there's actually higher percentages on it of these products, can make a really big difference. I know, Di, you're a cashback key. I never really got involved in it until TP, and I was shocked at it's just, once again, it's like free money being invested.
I'm all over free money.
And just consider as well, if you're sticking it in your pension, and it's, you know, over 20, 30 years, the growth on these levels can even make it more than the percentage that you're getting from a cashback as well. So it's worth looking at that from that point of view.
Yeah, that's the thing. People don't think you're still spending the same. So again, you're not losing anything. You're just gaining something that you wouldn't have had if you had just gone to, like you say, Jamie, Just Eat, and you order the takeaway and you spend, say, just £10. You've spent £10 anyway. But if you go through the rewards app, you get whatever the cashback limit is on that. You've still spent the same £10, but you might have 1%, 2%, 3% of that coming back into your investment by not doing anything extra, just simply using the app as opposed to going direct to Just Eat. So for me, it's a no-brainer. It just makes sense to get as much free money as you can from anywhere you can. Why would you turn that down?
I think there's another way of looking at it as well, which is it's changing your habits.
Yeah.
And when we first launched the platform in Impulse Save, one of the members of staff was putting something like £7.81 a day into his ISA, and I think, has he gone crackers? What's he doing? You know, is it a mistake? But what it turned out to be was the lad had stopped smoking, and he's putting the cost of it 20 cigarettes. Now, it shows how long ago it was, because it was £7.81, whereas I think cigarettes now are something like £13 for 20. But he changed his habit, and he still spent, but he put the money in a much, much different direction, which was himself. So well done to him. Don't know how many years it lasted.
No,
don't ask.
I know the lad you're talking about, Mark, and I don't think he smokes still. Is that right, Jamie? You know who it is too, don't you?
Yeah, I do. He doesn't smoke. No, he still doesn't smoke.
Good.
So hopefully he's still got that money squirreled away. Hopefully put in his pension, because he's just young, so he can't get access. He's 57 as well. So talking about, like, obviously we've been saving money there, and or certainly getting more bang for your buck within there. You know, we've talked about getting a goal, getting it into context, putting your spending, you know, framing your spending in context for that as well. Then we'll talk about rewards. Mark, when it comes to an investment type of strategy, I know you obviously talked about the fab performance we've enjoyed in the True Potential portfolios for a good long while now. But when people are looking to invest and put their money away, are there particular strategies or tactics people should be looking at, which is based on, say, 3 or 5 years versus, say, 25 years? Are there particular asset types we should be looking at, or ways to invest?
Yeah, I think the real danger is you just generalize, Dan. And, you know, when we set the platform up, when you, I, and our colleagues were designing it, we wanted to have it to be a truly individual experience. Now, an individual will have different goals, different timescales. If we look at the short-term side of it, yes, keep it in cash, but don't keep too much in cash at all. You know, the danger that they've got is there's something like 270 billion of UK money sitting in cash ISAs, which is absolutely a waste of an allowance. If you're looking to put that money away over a 3 to 5 year and beyond period, don't leave it in the cash ISA. Get it invested in asset-backed investment, and the, you know, multi-asset managed portfolios, exactly that. So short term, yeah, 3 to 4 months spending, keep it in cash, keep it in the bank. Anything beyond that, look more longer term. I think the mistake which is made quite often is in the pension side of it. You know, Jamie was talking about it before. A pension investment is a long-term investment. You can't get it till 55 at the very earliest. So just work out how long that money is going to be invested for. And my view is that you can afford to put more into the higher risk portfolios, which have got more ability to grow, and they've got longer to remain invested to ride out any storms that you see coming in the market. So what I would say is pension investment can afford to be higher risk because you've got longer for it to grow. Go into a growth portfolio, as I was saying before. With ISAs, again, think about how long that money can stay invested. And I think that the danger with an ISA is people treat it as a secondary bank account. You know, it's easy to dip into because it's instantly accessible, but try and have a little bit of discipline around that and only touch your ISA money if you absolutely need to. I know we've got flexible ISAs where you can put back in what you've taken out in any one tax year, but when we look at the stats, we see that very rarely happens. You know, people take money out of the ISA and that's it, it's gone, it's been spent. So I think it's a mixture of two things for me, Dan. It's the discipline of being able to put money to one side and leave it invested, and then work out what your individual goals are about how much money you'd like to have and when. And of course, we can measure that for you on the True Potential platform, because you can set your goals per account, if you like. You can have a pension account with us, which has a different timescale and objective than your ISA. You know, Jamie's got a definite there, which is for education. You know, that Jamie will probably need to draw on that before he draws on his pension. So that can have a different objective to it in a different timescale. But Jamie, don't go down the risk scale on either of those investments, because you're just a young fella.
Don't worry, they're both an aggressive, Mark. Looked after very well.
Just like you, Jamie.
Yeah, I think so. Mark, I think it's actually really, you know, from that point of view with the long-term performance, you know, you kind of, the interesting thing about the pensions, you know, I probably won't access my pension for 30 years. Most people, you know, could be sooner or later. But if you go back to the FTSE in about 1991, I don't know if you want to have a guess what it was worth.
Were you born there, Jamie? Were you alive?
I was 5-year-old then. So just do you think how much it'd be worth in, it was 2,500 points. So the amount it's went up during that 30-year period, you know, if you're in your early 20s and you're now looking at your retirement, having that money invested and saving, the more you had, the growth, we're not saying we're all back towards a FTSE, but it's a good indication. Just shows you that, you know, over the long term, you will get that growth.
I remember a couple of years ago, Jamie, a couple of summers ago, we were having a bit of fun at the staff update, you know, and we're saying to staff, think about things. And, you know, it came to mind when Di was talking about takeaways and cookbooks, because we're saying if you take a burger and fries that you buy once a week, and you take that money and you invest it in a pension over 40 years, you could have something over £200,000 just based on the way the market had gone. And that was for the cost of a Big Mac and fries over a 40-year period. It's dead easy to be a killjoy though, isn't it? You know, saying, don't you have a good time? You can't spend your money. It's getting the balance right. Yeah. Live your life, enjoy it, but also put money aside for what's coming. And it's, I remember a former colleague, and if she's watching, she knows who she is. She bought her son, who was about 6 years old, for his birthday, some national savings certificates, much to my amusement, you know. And you think, well, would he not rather have had a football or a toy? But she bought him these national savings certificates, and it'll be the gift that keeps on giving, because every 5 years, you can take his tax-free return, look at it, and roll it into the next issue of savings certificate. It could have been the new Messi had she bought him a football.
That's right. Imagine his excitement, wakes up on his 11th birthday. Oh, time to roll the certificate over. Saying that I've been boring, Dad. This week, obviously, we've been tax year start. So my money's in the ISA, and I've put the kids' JISAs on as well. So it's Chester's birthday on Sunday. So there's his birthday present. I've got you a JISA, son. It's what you've always wanted for your 5th birthday.
That's right, Chester. And if you're watching, make sure your dad's put the full 9,000 in. Don't be conned by what the allowance used to be.
It never changed, yeah. So,
you're right though, Mark. It's you do have to enjoy your money as well, but I do think for me you have to have visibility. So it's easy for me to have I always have a little chunk of money just in a savings account. It was the very first account I had when you went from being on a Saturday job, being paid cash every Saturday for the shift you'd done, to then having to have a bank account to have so I still have that very same savings account, and it's linked to my current account. So what I do, I move everything. When I get paid, I move everything that I don't want to spend from my salary into that little savings account. So I haven't officially signed it away into the ISA or into the pension yet, because what if I do need it? Do you know what I mean? What if the boiler breaks? What if I need something for the car? I don't want to have to withdraw from an investment, because I've essentially apportioned all of the cash that I've got away. So I move all of it into this little savings account, and then at the end of the month, what I haven't spent, what I've not needed to spend, I then move into my ISA. And it just gives me the freedom I can actually see what I'm doing with my money. So I still get pleasure out of it, if that makes sense, because I know it's there if I need it, and I can see it, but I can move it across into something that also means more to me. So I can take pride in the fact that I've actually not spent it this month.
Di, there's a couple of great examples in just what you've said there, because, you know, we've got many financial advisors who use True Potential. And one of them was telling me a couple of weeks ago that he'd been to see a young family, and they weren't putting any money away at all into pensions or into any long-term savings. But one of the things that they had done was they'd taken out insurance on the boiler. Now, you can understand why they do that, because if you've got a young family, you need heat, you need hot water, and if the boiler goes off, it's a massive pain. But they felt it was more important to insure the boiler than they did to insure themselves, or, you know, put money away. And that's just the way life is, because we work in the financial services industry. We see this day in, day out. But what's happening outside of it, it's what's second nature to us isn't second nature to a great deal of the UK population. And that's not a criticism or trying to be clever at all. It's reality. And when we've got a a workplace pension scheme that we run here for well over 200,000 people, and we can see the average monthly contribution that goes into that from both the employer, the tax benefits, the tax relief you get at that, and the employee. The average is just over £135 a month. Now, a lot of people will be thinking, right, my retirement's sorted. I've got a workplace pension scheme. I'm saving into it. And the truth is, more people are putting money into there than they were before this came along. But £135 a month is probably what most people are paying on Sky, on Netflix, and broadband a month. But it's not going into long-term saving. So that's really what it is about, getting the balance right. Enjoy yourselves, enjoy it, spend your money when you need to spend it, but put some of it aside, and that you put aside today will be a great benefit tomorrow.
Yeah, I think putting some of this aside and put it into context. Just if you go on, say, our website, if you go on tpinvestor.com, you've got some different calculators there as well. So even if you're not like a client of ours, use one of the calculators and just, going back to my example before, say, getting a £200 a month pay rise. Just put £100 aside, put it in the calculator and see the effect it has. Spend the extra £100 a month on frivolities, on fun or whatever, and enjoy your life, as I was saying. But do start to put some of that away and do exactly what Mark, Diane, and Jamie have been saying. So look, guys, that's all the money saved. That's the pay rises. And we've also had a year of saving money. I think, Mark, you were talking about the amount of money people have squirreled away at the moment. So beer gardens open on Monday. Is that the end of the year? Is that the end of the savings for you guys? Are you taking days off?
I'm off next Thursday, Friday, but let's face it, Dan, none of us have really been out in a year. We might have had drinks in the house or in the garden, but it's not going to be the same. I certainly won't be spending the same amount of money on booze next week that I would have a year and a half ago, because I just won't be able to take it. I'll have two and be all excited and be like, right, that's it, I'm done. So maybe not. I think it's going to be novel, isn't it? It'll be nice to be able to go out and have the social side of things, whether you spend a lot of money or you don't. Like, might be a half a cider. It's just going to be nice to have that little bit of freedom. So well, yes, by the way, that was my way of saying I'll be going, but I'm not going to try and spend not too much.
I don't know if people can see my screen or not on my phone, but that's the next week's weather report.
Oh, lovely.
Castle upon Tyne, and Monday,
excellent.
Beer gardens open. 50% chance of snow. So,
oh no!
So it's almost as if the government have done it on purpose, which is, we're going to let you have some freedom, but quickly, Boris, fire up the weather machine. So no one will go anyway. It's so Thursday, Friday, Diane, you've got it. Next Thursday, you've got a 40% chance of rain and 12 degrees. Friday, sunny and cloudy, 13 degrees. So Friday's your big day.
Yes. That's all right, Dan. I'm a Geordie, so I still won't be wearing a coat.
That's right. What's a coat? What else opens up? Jamie, you'll be going to Primark on Monday, are you?
Primark? No, definitely not. I'll be going to the hair shop, or also known as the barbers, because as you can see, I look like one of my we'll cast the joke and you can all laugh at us, but my football friends used to call us Lego hair. And this is like literally the most Lego hair I've ever had. It does look like I could just pop it off and change it. But I'm desperate for a haircut. And I think the last time I got a haircut was the day before lockdown started in January. So we fought 3.5 months, is it?
Yeah.
Have
you got an appointment booked, Jamie?
No, I've got a friendly Turkish barber down the road who should be able to do it for me. So I'll probably just have to queue, I would think.
Be some big queues. And
Dan, that's just Jamie putting us off the scent, because we know he's going to the hairdressers and he's getting his nails done. Never mind the Turkish barber.
He's getting the full makeover.
Yes.
Pedicure and manicure, whatever. Is that what it is, Di?
It is, yes, Jamie. Are you going for a full wax as well? Dare we go down that route?
We'll not go down that route.
No, okay. That's not. And Mark, are you doing anything exciting?
Well,
lockdown open.
I'm listening in the house to Matt and Dan making their plans, and Matty was booking tables, and they're working their route around Newcastle to say, right, we've got this table for an hour and a quarter, then we go 10 minutes walk, we've got a table here for 2 hours, and then so they're working their way through town. But there's a little bit of consternation when they realised that one of the bars was offering a bucket of beer. It was 10 bottles of beer for 42 quid. So I'm saying to them, well, yeah, it sounds a bit dear, but you haven't been out for a year. So you've got to understand that there'll be an element of catch up from the bars and the pubs, the clubs that will be opening up. So you might be paying a little bit more. But is £4.20 really expensive? Pre-lockdown prices?
I think that's reasonable for a bottle of beer, Mark. If you're going out, I'd expect to pay 4 or 5 quid for a bottle of beer.
Yeah.
Because it's a bottle of beer is normally the same price as a pint.
Aye. Yeah. So when you've got 10 of them in front of you with ice around it, and you haven't been, well, you might be covered in ice just given that weather forecast that you've given us, Dan. So you might be colder than the beer, which will be quite interesting.
Well, talking about being cold as well, when you agree to something and you're not really listening, and it was a long time ago. So Gemma, my wife, has booked a shepherd's hut in Newton by the Sea, which anyone doesn't know is a beautiful part of the Northumberland coastline, but it's also a cold part of the coastline. And that's Wednesday for me. So I'm taking a day off in the middle of next week to stay in a shepherd's hut in Newton.
Do you want a bucket of beer, Dan? 10 bottles of beer.
So I'll need at least 10 bottles of beer. It doesn't matter how cheap or expensive it is. I'll be paying the price just so I can go to sleep in a cold shepherd's hut on the Northumberland coastline.
I think you stand more chance of herding seals in the North Sea than sheep as well, Dan.
Oh, I know. It's just as I say, it's these things like, yes, that sounds good. I'll just put that and then all of a sudden it's here. It's 4 days away, and I'm gonna have to go because Boris has confirmed that we can stay in lodges or what have you from Monday.
I saw Boris on the television. It might have been not last night, the night before, and you know that his hair is like a feature of a personality and things like that. But I think he must have been trying to emphasise the fact that he hasn't had a haircut. And it was like one of those cartoons, where his hair explodes like a firework, and it's all over the place. It was more a la Hexham than normal for Boris, and that's a local saying for everybody who doesn't live or have grown up in the Tyne Valley.
Yeah, that's a very, very local saying. No, I think you're right with Johnson. I think he's deliberately making his hair look wackier and wackier. Because I've always thought he used to do that before he used to go on a press conference. You could see him getting like a big handful of gel and going, right, time to look like wacky Boris, and then out he comes. But I think it looks worse than Jamie's at the minute. But I think there's a few of the ministers, they've obviously been told, don't you dare get your hair cut, make sure you look just like one of the people. So Grant Shapps was on this morning saying, like, to be able to go on holiday now, you probably have to spend really £100 each way for a PCR test just to go anywhere. So it's just like killed any chance of anyone going anywhere. And he's got like a wild looking set of hair at the moment as well. And you feel like saying, I think we'll probably let you lot off getting your hair cut by somebody in there, because they all get your makeup and all that. When you go on the news, they're still getting makeup put on and whatever. So just ask for a trim. Stop pretending to be one of the people. It's fine. We'll let you off.
Yeah. I saw that the hard hat and high vis jacket had been passed around to another minister who was watching on the news last night. So obviously that's why Boris couldn't wear it. They've only got one, and they share it. After it's been fully fogged to make sure they don't pass on COVID via the hard hat and high vis jacket.
It has to be fully fogged, Mark. It has to be health and safety first.
Yeah.
So that's our next week of excitement coming up. So next Friday, everybody, I think you'll be able to hear about my adventures in the shepherd hut. Diane will still be drunk in the garden somewhere because that's day 2 of Diane's 2-day beer garden drinking binge. Jamie, if you're with us next week, you'll have a lovely new sharp haircut, we hope, as well. So more room for optimism, I think, everybody, based on the market commentary which Mark said, especially since Mark's promised us he'll get the FTSE 100 above 7,000 as well in the next couple of days. So that was a good pledge from Mark.
I will do if I'm still not looking through the streets of Newcastle for 2 sons.
That's right, with expensive bottles of beer.
Yeah.
Or reasonably priced bottles of beer down in money.
Danny's probably bought 10 bottles of Beck's Blue and hasn't realised.
That would be funny, Jamie. But if he's bought it via the TP app, at least he'll get some pleasure for it when he gets the money into his ISA.
He'll get his cash back.
Get back. No, it's talking about that. I was just looking at the stats when we're talking about that. Just Eat last month, people on the app spent £10,000 on Just Eat, just on our app users. So 29% of all rewards spend was on Just Eat from our people. So there you go, an extra 29% of free money on the way for eating that beef burger or that Greg's sausage roll or whatever it was people get from Just Eat.
And 95% of that £10,000 was Neil Rayner.
He wishes. He doesn't have that exciting lifestyle. He is a compliance person, so he'll definitely be counting his purse like that. Oh, well, what would the Cubs rules say about me buying a beef burger a day and things like that? So
only allowed fish on a Friday, so he can't do it on a Friday.
Yeah, he is. He's a good Catholic lad, as Neil Rayner. So it's definitely fish only on a Friday as well, Diane. That's quite right. Good point, well made. And I think on that good point well made is a good time to wrap it up. So we know what we're doing. We're doing nothing this weekend because you can't do anything, but we're all going on oot on Monday. Gan oot, as they would say. So everyone have a lovely weekend. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Jamie, for your help and for your input today. And ladies and gentlemen, have a lovely weekend. Hopefully it's not going to snow for you if you don't live in the northeast. I hope you're going to be warmer than what us four are going to be. Have a great weekend and look forward to speaking to you very soon. Cheerio for now. Thank you. Subscribing to the True Potential YouTube channel is quick and easy. Simply go to your YouTube app on your phone, type in True Potential and press the red subscribe option. You'll then be notified as and when new videos are released.